beautiful day here at Wildlife Sydney. My name is Sam and I'm going to tell you all about the beautiful koalas I do have in this enclosure behind me. So I do like to start off this talk just by clearing up one of the most common misconceptions about these koalas. So who here has ever heard a koala referred to as a koala bear? Anybody? Yeah? Some hands? Yeah, this is really common. Now, koalas are not bears at all. They're not even closely related to bears. We are more closely related to bears than these koalas. So I know like little Bruce sitting up the front here, he does look like a little teddy bear up in the tree. But the closest relative to these koalas is actually the wombat. So you guys probably saw our beautiful wombat mate downstairs. That is the closest relative. That's because koalas and wombats are both marsupials. So for anyone that doesn't know, a marsupial is a mammal that has a pouch. So most people come to Australia knowing that a kangaroo has a pouch, but it actually goes for all of the marsupials, and we have a lot of them here in Australia. So it's not just the kangaroos and the wallabies, it's the koalas and the wombats, the Tassie devils, the bilbies, the quolls. Most of our mammals in Australia are actually marsupials. So yeah, these wombats and koalas are very closely related, and these guys actually both have an upside down pouch. So their pouch, it actually opens at the bottom. And I think when I say that to people, they imagine this upside down pocket on the front of the koala, and they imagine the little Joey falling out of that pouch onto the ground. But it's not really like that at all. So the smaller pouch is very different to what you're imagining in your head. It's not really like a big pocket, even though you see that in the cartoons of the kangaroos. It's actually a little bit more like a drawstring bag. It's got a really small opening, and it can get stretched out if there's actually a joey living inside. But if you look really carefully at our girl koalas downstairs or at our girl kangaroos as well, you probably won't be able to see that pouch at all. And that's because they don't have a joey there at the moment, so it just looks like a tiny little belly button. So it's very different. Now it might seem a little bit strange, these pouches, they do open at the bottom for koalas and wombats. But if you're a wombat and you're on the ground and you're trying to dig out your burrow just like this, if your pouch opens at the top, all you'd be doing is filling off your pouch with dirt. And I'm sure if there was a joey living inside there, they wouldn't appreciate that very much. So instead, their pouch does open at the bottom. Now with koalas, it doesn't really make much sense. They sit up in trees all day. They don't go digging out any burrows. But don't worry, that mum has really strong pouch muscles. She pulls them nice and tight around the joey, and that joey will not be falling out of that pouch. Do not worry. So one obvious difference between the wombats and koalas is, of course, that koalas live up trees just like this. Now, living up trees is a really good skill for an animal to have, because while they're right up here on the ground, there are predators like dogs and foxes and cats and other animals that might think koalas are a delicious snack. So while those predators are walking around on the ground, these koalas can stay nice and safe up in these trees. Now people always ask me, have I ever seen a koala fall out of a tree? But I actually have not. Now if you or I were to climb up these trees, sit up here like this all day and all night, we would get very uncomfortable and we might even fall out, especially if we fell asleep. But not these koalas, they're really well adapted to living up trees. So first of all, they've got a nice bony plate in their bottom, and it's kind of like a seat. So when they climb up these trees and they sit there, just like Bruce is doing at the front, it's kind of like they're sitting on a chair up in the tree. So they're nice and stable, and they're not going to be falling out. Now if they don't eat the leaves when most animals actually couldn't. So if you or I were to try to eat the eucalyptus leaves, those toxins would be like poison to us and would make us sick. That goes for a lot of animals, but those koalas are very special to have that bacteria inside them which can process those toxins. But it does mean that these koalas have to sleep for about 20 hours a day. So people come up here and they think, oh no, the koalas are sleeping, that's the worst timing ever. But they're usually sleeping. They do need to get a lot of sleep, and that's because they're hardly getting any energy out of this food source, and their body also has to work pretty hard to try and process those toxins. Now koalas are actually really fussy eaters. So as I said, they do only eat eucalyptus. Not only that, though, they only eat particular species. So there's over 700 different species of eucalyptus, these koalas can only eat about 80 of those species. So they're pretty fussy. Not only that, they won't even eat all of the leaves. So if you watch a koala when it's eating, you'll see it sniff every leaf before they put it in their mouth. And that's how they assess the quality of those leaves, whether there's high or low toxins, whether there's high or low nutrients, and they're only going to eat the best leaves, which are usually the ones right at the tips, the youngest leaves. So they'll do that in one tree, eat all those good ones right at the tips here. Then they'll climb down that tree, find a new tree, go up there, and eat all of the best leaves in that tree. So very fussy. It does mean we have to get a lot of eucalyptus to live in here at Wildlife Sydney. So we provide our koalas with about 20 to 25 different species of eucalyptus. And just like people, they do have personal preference for particular types as well. So our keepers do know our koalas really well, know which ones they like. And it does mean we even have to swap it over during the day. But don't worry, we can recycle these leaves into other exhibits. Like Beggar and Walkabout, give it to the stick insects, other animals that aren't quite as wealthy as these koalas. So I do actually have two boys in the enclosure behind me today. As I keep mentioning, we have Bruce up the front here. I do love Bruce. He is our youngest koala. He's just over 1 year old, so you can see he's a lot smaller than the other koalas we do have in this enclosure. He is getting quite big and he's growing really quickly as well. Now, marsupial reproduction and koala reproduction in particular is really interesting. It's really different to a lot of other animals. So first of all, the girl is only pregnant for about 35 days. How good would it be if you only had to be pregnant for 1 month? Sounds pretty good. Not only that, when they give birth, there's no pushing, there's no screaming. It is not very traumatic at all. The girl slides back, lets that baby slide right on out, about the size of a jelly bean. It's about this big. Not only is it the size of a jelly bean, it kind of looks like one too. If you took a pink jelly bean, put it in your mouth, gave it a little bit of a chew, spat it out in your hand, that is what a baby koala looks like when it's born. It is not very cute at all. It doesn't have any fur, any ears, any eyes. All it's got is a really good sense of smell, and it's got 2 little forelimbs. And that little jelly bean baby will actually pull itself inside the mom's pouch. And that mom will pull those pouch muscles nice and tight, and that baby can start to suckle on its mom's milk. So it's actually inside the pouch that most of the growing happens, and it's inside the pouch that it starts turning into what you'd imagine a little baby koala to look like. So it actually stays in there for about 6 to 8 months. And while it's in there, it'll get its fur, its cute little ears, just like this. One day you might see it pop its little arm out, one day you might stick its little head out, and eventually it will be big enough to come out of that pouch all by itself. But it will still hang around with mum for a little while after this, ride around on her back, sit with her in the tree, and learn how to be a proper koala. But at this point it gets even more interesting. So the adult koalas have special bacteria in their gut to allow them to eat eucalyptus leaves. But the baby koalas are not born with that bacteria inside them. So how do they get it into their guts? Well, those baby koalas have to eat their mom's poo. Sounds pretty gross. There's a really special type of mom's poo. It's called pap. So those koalas that have just had babies will produce that special type of pap. And those babies will have to eat that for a few weeks after they come out of that pouch. So it does sound a little bit gross, but it's full of nutrients. It's also full of that bacteria. And once they've eaten that for a little while, it means they're able to eat the eucalyptus leaves just like normal koalas. So all of the koalas in this exhibit would have done just that. And it's actually a really important step in them becoming adults. So I actually have all of the boys with me here today. We've got 4 koalas in here. Not only Bruce, but we've got Sid and Jack sitting right up there. And over in this corner we've got Bill hanging out. We've got 2 boys down the back as well, Jay and Aaron. So Aaron over there is the smaller one. He's about 7 years old. He's our oldest koala. And the bigger one is actually Aaron, who's only 2. He just grew really big really quickly. We actually have the girls downstairs, and we have to keep them separated for a few different reasons. First of all, when the boys are around the girls, they will get a little bit aggressive, they might get a little bit jealous, and they will fight over those girls. So we don't really want that happening. But also here at Wildlife, we're lucky enough to have our own breeding program. So by keeping them separated, it means we can take one boy, take a girl, put them in a separate enclosure at the back. That way we just have a bit more control over the breeding that goes on between our koalas, and it's just more in a more controlled environment. We don't want any surprise babies. So we're really lucky to be able to do that here. Now I think it's really important to have koalas on display, not only so you can see how adorable they are, of course, but so we can also teach you about any threats they might be facing in the wild and what you guys might be able to do to help. So we do have a lot of koalas in Australia. They only live on the east coast of Australia, but their numbers in the wild are actually rapidly declining. And it's not due to invasive species, it's not due to hunting, it's due to habitat destruction. It's actually us chopping down their eucalyptus trees. Now when people chop down eucalyptus trees, if the koalas are lucky enough to survive that, they will have to go around on the ground trying to look for new trees to live in. And that's when they can encounter those predators I mentioned before, like the dogs and the foxes and other things on the ground looking for food. Now sometimes when people are building, they think, I know, I'll just take these koalas out of here, I'll just take them over here, put them in these trees, there we go, they can live over here and I can use these trees. That sounds like a good idea, but often they don't understand just how fussy these koalas are. As I said, they need specific species of eucalyptus, they need good quality leaves, and often they're put into an environment that isn't appropriate for them. So once again, they just have to come back down and look for a new home. Now sometimes as well, these days we build roads or train lines right nearby where the koalas are living. Now koalas do spend some time on the ground when they're moving between trees, and unfortunately they can end up on the roads or the train lines, and that can be really dangerous for them too. And so it is really important that we continue to monitor koalas in Australia. Here we're lucky enough to have our own wildlife conservation fund. There's one just in the corner there. Any donations to that will go towards conserving koala populations in Australia and trying to conserve their habitat as well. So I hope you've all learned a lot about koalas from me. As I said, my name is Sam. Feel free to come and ask me any questions or have a chat as well. You can also purchase your own koala account ticket today. If you do want to come in and get some photos with our koalas, you just need to buy a ticket over at the cafe, then bring it over to the gate and I'll take you inside for that experience. Other than that, thank you so much for listening. We do have a kids show about to start just down the back there. So just over in that corner, just head over there. It's not just for the kids, I'm sure everyone will enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for listening and have a great afternoon at Wildlife Sydney.